The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss as Ambassador Alan Wright entered the circular room. He walked with steady steps across the polished floor that reflected the stars visible through the transparent dome. Ceiling, hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy watched him from their raised seats. Some leaned forward with interest while others turned away in disgust. Humans had never been popular among the galactic species, but Alan maintained his dignity as he approached the central speaking platform. Council leader Xylos floated at the head of the chamber, their body glowing with bioluminescent patterns that shifted between blue and green. Like all Centaurians, Xylos had no solid form, existing instead as an organized cloud of particles contained within a thin membrane. Ambassador Wright of Earth, you stand before the full assembly as we conclude our deliberations, Xylos announced, their voice translated and amplified throughout the chamber. For 200 years, humanity has been part of this galactic community. For 200 years, we have watched your species with growing concern. Alan stood silently, his face betraying no emotion. He had expected this day for years. The other ambassadors murmured among themselves, the combined sound like waves crashing against a distant shore. Humanity advances too quickly, consumes too greedily, and refuses to conform to established norms, continued Xylos. Your military expansion exceeds safety protocols. Your technological innovations ignore approved research pathways. Your cultural influences spread without proper containment measures. From the side chambers, aides brought in a floating device that projected a large holographic display. It showed the voting results from every member world. Alan watched as the numbers solidified. The decision was not even close. The vote has been recorded and verified, Xylos declared, by an overwhelming majority of 714 to 23 with 42 abstentions. The Galactic Council hereby revokes Earth's membership status. All humans must withdraw from Council space within 1 standard galactic year. All trade agreements are nullified effective immediately. All diplomatic channels will close after this session. The chamber erupted in sounds ranging from the clicking mandibles of the insectoid Vex to the high-pitched whistles of the gaseous nebulans. Some species celebrated openly while others maintained formal postures of neutrality. The few allies humanity had made over the centuries looked down with expressions of regret or embarrassment. Alan waited for the noise to subside. Protocol allowed him one final address before the judgment became official. The council members quieted down, eager to witness Earth's representative beg for reconsideration or erupt in the famous human anger. They all expected. Instead, Alan smiled. The human delegation acknowledges your decision, he said calmly. The translation devices carried his words to every representative in their native language. However, there's something their council should know. He removed a small device from his pocket and activated it. A new hologram appeared beside him, showing the Sol System Earth's home. The image zoomed out, revealing hundreds of massive ships moving away from the solar system in all directions. Humanity began preparations to leave the galactic community. 3 years ago, Alan explained, our exodus is already 70% complete. The chamber fell completely silent. This was not the reaction they had anticipated. What trickery is this? Demanded Xylos, their form pulsing with rapid color changes indicating distress. No trickery, Council Leader. Simply foresight, Alan replied. Our intelligence services intercepted communications regarding this vote long before it was officially proposed. Rather than wait for your judgment, we chose to leave on our own terms. Ambassador Krell of the Draconian Empire rose from his seat, his scaled skin flushing dark purple with anger. Impossible. Our observers report normal activities on Earth. And your colonies? There has been no mass movement of your kind. Alan nodded respectfully to the reptilian diplomat. What your observers saw is what we wanted them to see. Automated systems, holographic projections, and a carefully orchestrated deception maintained by a small percentage of our population who volunteered to stay behind the longest. The Galactic Security Chief, a tall four-armed being named Morval, approached the central platform. Our scanners would have detected construction of evacuation ships on this scale. Not if they were built beyond your regular patrol routes, Alan countered. We used the asteroid belt and the outer planets as cover. We developed new propulsion systems specifically designed to avoid detection by standard Council monitoring equipment. We've been studying your surveillance capabilities for decades, Chief Morville. We know exactly how to avoid them. Outrage swept through the chamber as the implications became clear. Humanity had anticipated rejection and prepared accordingly. Worse, they had successfully hidden these preparations from the combined intelligence networks of hundreds of advanced civilizations. "Where are you going?" asked Xylos, their voice now lacking its earlier authority. Alan's expression hardened slightly. "That information is no longer your concern. We've identified regions beyond Council space. We will forge our own path forward, without interference." "This is unprecedented," stammered a jellyfish-like diplomat from the water worlds of Hydrus. "No species has ever withdrawn from the Council voluntarily, let alone secretly relocated their entire civilization." "Humans have always been different," Alan said. "You've reminded us of that fact constantly. Now we embrace it." He stepped away from the platform and began walking toward the exit. According to protocol, once Earth's status was revoked, he no longer had the right to address the assembly. But he paused at the massive doors and turned back to face the stunned Council one last time. "For generations, we tried to earn your trust and respect. We contributed medical advances that saved billions across multiple species. We helped mediate conflicts between ancient enemies. We shared art and music that now plays in homes on hundreds of worlds. Yet you always viewed us with suspicion and fear, not for what we've done, but for what you think we might become." The doors began to slide open behind him. "Today you thought you were banishing us, but we had already chosen to leave. The difference matters to us, even if it doesn't to you." With those final words, Ambassador Alan Wright walked out of the Galactic Council chamber for the last time. Behind him, the representatives of 779 worlds erupted into chaos, as they realized the humans had outmaneuvered them completely. In orbit above the Council homeworld, a small diplomatic vessel powered up its engines. Inside, Alan strapped himself into the pilot's seat and opened a secure communication channel. "This is Ambassador Wright to Fleet Command. The message has been delivered. Council reaction exactly as predicted. Returning to the fleet now." The voice of Admiral Sam Warren responded promptly. "Acknowledged, Ambassador. The last ships are preparing to depart the Sol system. We'll rendezvous at the designated coordinates in 72 hours. Alan guided the ship away from the gleaming Council station. Through the viewport he watched as official vessels scrambled in apparent confusion. Some seemed to be preparing to follow him, but he knew their tracking systems would lose his ship as soon as he activated the new drive system. Humanity had spent decades playing by the Council's rules, trying to fit into a galactic community that never truly accepted them. Now they were writing their own rules, charting a course into unknown regions where no Council ship had ventured. As his vessel accelerated toward the jump point, Alan felt a curious mixture of sadness and hope. They were leaving behind the cradle of human civilization, but carrying its essence with them to the stars. The galaxy had voted to cast them out, never realizing that humanity had already chosen to seek its destiny elsewhere. 5 years before the Galactic Council's vote, Dr. Susan Miller stood nervously in front of the Joint Earth Defense Command in the underground facility beneath Denver. The room was filled with military officers and government officials, all watching her with intense focus as she adjusted her glasses. The large screen behind her displayed decoded alien transmissions, carefully translated into English. "As you can see from these intercepted communications," Susan said, pointing to highlighted sections, "representatives from at least 20 major Council worlds have been discussing Earth's removal for over a decade. These aren't just casual conversations. They've been developing formal proposals." General Kevin Harris leaned forward, his weathered face showing deep concern. "And, you're certain these translations are accurate?" There's no room for misinterpretation? Susan nodded firmly. My team has verified them using 3 different translation matrices. We even ran them by the linguistic AIs. The intent is clear. The Galactic Council fears humanity's growth rate and adaptability. They see us as unpredictable and dangerous. President Olivia Taylor sat at the center of the table, her hands folded tightly together. Unlike the others, her expression revealed little of her thoughts. They fear us not for what we've done, but for what we might become, she said quietly. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Humanity had joined the galactic community with such hope 2 centuries ago, eager to learn from older species and share their unique perspectives. Despite occasional conflicts and misunderstandings, most humans believed they were slowly earning acceptance. What are our options? Asked the president. Defense Secretary William Grant cleared his throat. We could strengthen our military presence near key council worlds, make it clear that any move against Earth would be costly, and start the very conflict they fear? Countered Foreign Minister Elena Diaz. That would only confirm their suspicions. About us, Susan stepped forward again. There's something else in the communications that's troubling. Several species have been cataloging Earth's resources, our population centers, even our cultural landmarks. It reads like an inventory. President Taylor's eyes narrowed. An inventory for what purpose? Possibly for redistribution. After our removal, Susan replied hesitantly, some communications suggest certain worlds are already staking claims to parts of our solar system. The room erupted in angry voices until President Taylor raised her hand for silence. She stood up slowly, walking to the large window that overlooked the busy command center below where hundreds of personnel monitored Earth's defenses. They've already decided our fate, she said, watching the activity below. Whether the vote happens next year or in 10 years, the outcome seems predetermined. We've tried for 2 centuries to be accepted as equals, but they've never seen us that way. She turned back to face the assembled leaders. I believe we have a third option, beyond fighting or submitting to their judgment. Humanity leaves the galactic community on our own terms before they can force us out. The proposal was met with shocked expressions and immediate objections. Leave? Abandon Earth? General Harris asked incredulously. The president shook her head. Not abandon, relocate. Humanity carries Earth with us, our people, our cultures, our knowledge. We find somewhere beyond council space to build a new home, free from their restrictions and prejudices. What began that day as a radical suggestion eventually transformed into humanity's most ambitious project ever, Operation Exodus. Over the next 6 months, the world's leaders were quietly informed of the threat and the proposed solution. Some resisted initially, but as more evidence was presented, a remarkable consensus formed across political and national boundaries. Chief Engineer Peter Collins was appointed to lead the design team for the Exodus fleet. Working from a hidden facility in the asteroid belt, he coordinated thousands of engineers and scientists developing vessels unlike anything humanity had built before. The ships need to be completely self-sustaining, Peter explained to his team during their first briefing. Not just for a journey of a few years, but potentially for generations if necessary. Each vessel must be a miniature Earth, capable of supporting tens of thousands of people indefinitely. The design they eventually created was revolutionary massive spherical ships with multiple rotating rings providing gravity. The outer shells contained layers of shielding against radiation and micro-impacts. The inner sections housed residential areas, hydroponic farms, manufacturing facilities, and all the infrastructure needed for a complete civilization. Most importantly, the ships incorporated new propulsion technology that Earth scientists had been secretly developing, drives that operated outside the standard detection parameters of Council monitoring systems. Meanwhile, Director Nicole Barnes of Global Security orchestrated what would become the greatest misinformation campaign in human history. Her job was to ensure that Council observers and alien visitors would notice nothing unusual as humanity quietly prepared to leave. Our greatest advantage is their underestimation of us, Nicole told her international team. They think they understand human behavior, but they've always viewed us through their own cultural lenses. We can use that blind spot. Under her guidance, abandoned factories were repurposed as massive 3D printing facilities, producing components that would later be assembled in space. The work was disguised as infrastructure upgrades or research projects. Mining operations in the asteroid belt expanded dramatically but were presented as commercial ventures seeking rare metals. The most challenging aspect was moving people off-planet without creating noticeable population shifts. The solution was ingenious in its simplicity, gradually replacing people with sophisticated holograms and automated systems. A family would leave their home, and sophisticated projections would continue to show activity inside. Automated cars would maintain traffic patterns. Programmed drones would shop in stores. President Taylor appointed Admiral John Phillips to oversee the military aspects of the exodus. His primary concern was protecting the fleet during construction and the eventual departure. "We need to maintain our regular patrol schedules and defense readiness," he instructed his officers. "Any change in our posture might alert Council observers that something unusual is happening. At the same time, we need to quietly redeploy our best ships and crews to protect the construction sites." The plan required unprecedented global cooperation. Former adversaries shared resources and technology. Scientists who once competed now collaborated. Billions of people prepared to leave their homes while maintaining a convincing appearance of normal life. 3 years into the project, the first massive ships were complete. The initial departures began with small groups boarding vessels that slipped away from the solar system using routes specifically calculated to avoid detection. President Taylor recorded a message that was shared with each group of departing. "Humans, you are the pioneers of humanity's new chapter," she told them. "We didn't choose this path, but we will walk it with courage and hope. The stars beyond Council space will be our new home, where we can develop without constraint. 1. Day, the galaxy will meet humanity again, not as subjects or exiles, but as equals who charted their own destiny." As Ambassador Alan Wright stood before the Galactic Council 5 years after the project began, delivering the shocking news of humanity's self-determined exodus, the last major ships were already preparing to leave Earth orbit. The plan that had seemed impossible was now reality. Humanity had chosen to leave before they could be banished, transforming a moment of defeat into one of defiant self-determination. As Ambassador Alan Wright delivered his shocking announcement to the Galactic Council, the massive engines of Earth's Exodus fleet activated simultaneously across the solar system. Hidden in the shadows of planets, moons, and asteroids, over 300 colossal ships broke from their concealed positions. Their hulls gleamed briefly in the light of the distant sun before advanced stealth systems engaged, rendering them nearly invisible to standard detection methods. Admiral John Phillips stood on the bridge of the flagship named Pathfinder, watching as status reports streamed in from across the fleet. Each vessel carried approximately 15 million humans along with vast repositories containing Earth's plant and animal genetic material. The Admiral's weathered face remained calm despite the historic gravity of the moment. He had spent the last 5 years preparing for this day, and now it was finally happening. "All ships reporting ready status, Admiral," announced his communications officer, Lisa Franklin. Her fingers moved rapidly over the holographic controls as she processed the incoming signals. Propulsion systems nominal across the fleet. Stealth systems functioning at optimal levels. John nodded, his eyes fixed on the massive display showing the position of each vessel. "Begin Phase 1 departure sequence. Maintain communication. Blackout protocols until we reach the first checkpoint." Throughout the fleet, similar scenes played out as ship captains received their final departure orders. Massive fusion drives ignited, pushing the vessels forward with steadily increasing acceleration. The ships moved in perfect coordination, following exit vectors calculated to minimize their detection profile. On board the Pathfinder, civilian leader Maria Perez joined the Admiral on the bridge. As the elected representative of the ship's civilian population, she had the responsibility of addressing the millions of people now leaving their home system forever. Are we ready for the announcement, Admiral? She asked quietly. John checked the time. Yes, the council meeting should be concluding now. Ambassador Wright will have delivered our message. We can proceed. Maria stepped to the communication station and nodded to Lisa. The officer activated the fleet-wide broadcast system, connecting all ships simultaneously. Maria took a deep breath before speaking. People of Earth, this is Maria Perez aboard the Pathfinder. Today marks the beginning of humanity's new journey. As you know, we leave not because we were forced to, but because we chose freedom over subjugation. The path ahead holds many challenges, but we face them together, carrying with us everything that makes us human. Our history, our cultures, our hopes for the future all travel with us to the stars. Across the fleet, people gathered around screens to watch the broadcast. Families held each other close. Children looked with wide eyes at the images of Earth growing smaller behind them. Some people wept quietly for the home they were leaving, while others looked forward with determination to the future they would build. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Wright activated a holographic display showing the fleet's emergence. The alien representatives watched in stunned silence as hundreds of massive ships appeared seemingly from nowhere. These vessels represent 5 years of planning and construction, Wright explained calmly. Each is completely self-sufficient, capable of sustaining human life indefinitely. We've developed technologies specifically for this exodus, many of which we deliberately kept hidden from Council inspection. Council leader Xylos floated closer to the hologram, their luminescent form pulsing with rapid color changes indicating extreme agitation. This level of deception is unprecedented. You've been planning this while pretending to participate in good faith in Council affairs. Wright's expression hardened slightly. And how much good faith did the Council show by secretly planning our expulsion? We've had representatives in diplomatic, scientific, and cultural exchange programs. We've contributed technologies, medicines, and helped mediate conflicts, yet you've always viewed us with suspicion. From a corner of the chamber, a small Meldarian representative stepped forward. The avian species had been one of the few consistent allies of humanity in Council affairs. Where will you go? She asked, her voice translated with the musical quality characteristic of her kind. That information is no longer your concern, Wright replied firmly. We've identified regions beyond your explored space. We'll forge our own path. Security Chief Morville approached the display, his forearms moving in the complex patterns that indicated deep analytical thought in his species. These ships their design is unlike anything in our records. And their propulsion signature doesn't match any known system. Because we developed them specifically to evade your detection methods, Wright confirmed. You've always underestimated human ingenuity. That was your mistake. As the council chamber erupted into arguments and accusations, Wright's communication device vibrated softly. He glanced down to see a simple message. Fleet departure complete. Return to rendezvous point. His mission was accomplished. In orbit above the Council homeworld, Security Chief Lisa Franklin monitored the situation from a cloaked observation vessel. Her job was to ensure Ambassador Wright's safe return and to gather intelligence on the Council's immediate response to the revelation. The ship's advanced sensors recorded everything, confirming what their intelligence had predicted. Panic spreading through the galactic representatives as they realized the implications. They're scrambling emergency response vessels, reported her sensor officer. Looks like they're preparing to dispatch observation ships to the Sol system, Lisa nodded. Just as we expected. They'll find exactly what we want them to find. She checked the secure communication channel. Ambassador Wright is on his way back. Prepare for immediate departure once he's aboard. The Council's emergency session continued for hours after Wright left. Representatives argued fiercely about the appropriate response. Some demanded immediate military action to stop the human exodus. Others pointed out that humanity had technically done nothing illegal. There was no law against a species voluntarily leaving Council space. The draconian representative pounded his scaled fist on the speaking platform. This is clearly a deception. To hide some greater scheme. Humans are planning something hostile. We should pursue their fleet and demand inspection of their vessels. The Meldarian representative countered quickly. On what grounds? They've chosen to leave before being forced out? We have no jurisdiction over species outside Council space. Meanwhile, the human Exodus fleet accelerated away from the solar system, following carefully plotted courses toward distant stars. On the Pathfinder, Admiral Phillips reviewed the latest reports with his command staff. All ships have successfully cleared the solar system, his navigation officer confirmed. No pursuit detected from Council vessels. We're maintaining stealth. Protocols as planned. And Earth? The Admiral asked. The remaining teams report all systems functioning normally. The automated defenses are active but concealed. The holographic projections are maintaining the illusion of normal planetary activity. Council observation ships will see exactly what we want them to see, a planet that appears inhabited but is strangely quiet in terms of outgoing communications. John Phillips looked at the final image of Earth displayed on the main screen. The blue and green world that had been humanity's home for all of its existence was now part of their past. He felt a momentary pang of sadness, knowing he would never walk on its surface again. Set course for the first checkpoint, he ordered. We have a long journey ahead. As the Exodus fleet moved beyond the boundaries of known space, they carried with them not just the people and biological heritage of Earth, but something more important, the freedom to determine their own future without the constraints and prejudices of the Galactic Council. Humanity hadn't been banished. They had chosen to leave, transforming an act of rejection into one of self-determination. The stars ahead beckoned with promise and possibility. Whatever challenges awaited them, humans would face them together on their own terms. 1 month after the Galactic Council's vote, Earth appeared strangely quiet to the alien observation vessels keeping watch from a respectful distance. The planet still showed signs of human activity. Lights still glowed across city grids at night. Transportation systems continued to function, and communication signals still bounced between continents. Yet something felt off to the observers. Communication with the planet had become minimal and strictly automated. No human representatives responded to hails from Council ships. What the observers couldn't know was that nearly 90% of humanity had already departed. Only essential personnel remained on Earth, maintaining the elaborate deception while preparing for their own departure. Dr. Richard Martinez supervised the final stages of the exodus from Houston Command Center. Now operating with a skeleton crew of just 50 people where thousands once worked. The large underground facility had been stripped of all critical technology and data. What remained were only the systems needed to maintain the planetary illusion for a few more days. Status report on automated systems, Richard requested, his tired eyes scanning multiple displays. His assistant, Wendy Clark, checked her tablet before responding. All systems functioning normally. Holographic projections are stable across all major population centers. Traffic patterns are being maintained by the AI. Power grids are running at minimal capacity, but showing normal output signatures to external scans. Richard nodded, taking a sip from his coffee mug. He hadn't slept properly in days. And the Council observers? Still maintaining their positions? They've launched several probe drones into our atmosphere, but our defensive systems are intercepting and feeding them the prepared data streams. They're seeing exactly what we want them to see. The deception was truly massive in scale. Empty cities ran on automated systems with holographic projections creating the illusion of human activity. Farmlands lay fallow, but were disguised by sophisticated camouflage that made them appear productive when viewed from orbit. Communication networks relayed pre-programmed messages between empty buildings. Even the weather control systems continued to operate, maintaining normal patterns to avoid suspicion. How much longer? Wendy asked quietly. Richard checked the countdown displayed in the corner of his main screen. Just 72 more hours, then we join the last ship. That ship was the Horizon, the final vessel in humanity's Exodus fleet. Unlike the others that had already departed, Horizon had remained hidden in Earth orbit, cloaked from detection by the most advanced stealth technology humans had developed. Under the command of Captain Heather Lewis, it waited to evacuate the remaining 10 million humans who had volunteered to stay behind the longest. These final evacuees included the skeleton crews maintaining essential systems, the defense personnel protecting the evacuation routes, and entire communities who had volunteered to be last so others could leave first. They were the ones taking the greatest risk. If the Council had decided to take aggressive action, they would have been the most vulnerable. Captain Lewis stood on the bridge of the Horizon, reviewing the loading schedule with her officers. "The last transports from Asia have completed boarding," reported her first officer, Jack Nelson. "European groups are at 80%. North and South American departures will begin in 6 hours." Heather nodded, her expression serious. "And our special cargo?" "Secure in the central hold, Captain. Dr. Johnson has personally verified all systems are functioning properly." The special cargo was something unique to the Horizon, a sophisticated temporal beacon designed by physicist Greg Johnson. If humanity ever wished to return to check on Earth, the beacon would allow them to know if the planet still existed and in what condition. It was insurance against the possibility that the Council might take revenge on the abandoned world once they discovered the deception. While the final evacuation proceeded, Lieutenant Carl Bennett led a small team of 300 volunteers on a different mission. They had chosen to remain on Earth permanently, hidden in a network of secret bunkers built deep beneath the surface. Their task would begin after everyone else had left, maintaining minimal defenses and monitoring systems to ensure Earth would not be exploited or destroyed in humanity's absence. Carl's team gathered in their primary bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains for final preparations. "Once the Horizon departs, we activate the planetary cloaking array," he explained to his team. "If it works as designed, Earth will essentially disappear from standard detection methods. To outside observers, it will appear as if the planet has somehow vanished." A young engineer raised her hand. "And if they send ships to investigate directly?" "The automated defense systems will remain active but hidden," Carl answered. "Any vessel approaching too closely will experience system failures and be forced to withdraw. Nothing lethal, we're not starting a war, but enough to discourage close inspection." Many in the team looked nervous, and for good reason. They were volunteering to be truly left behind, with no guarantee they would ever rejoin the rest of humanity. Their supplies would last for decades, and they had the technology to sustain themselves indefinitely if all went well. But they would be alone on a planet that had once held billions. "I know what we're asking of you is enormous," Carl continued, his voice softening, "but Earth is our birthplace. We can't take it with us, but we can protect it. Someday humans might return here. We're making sure there's something for them to come back to." As the final hours approached, Dr. Martinez received word that the last transport ships were preparing for departure from Houston. He gathered his remaining staff for a final briefing. "In 2 hours we board the last transport," he told them. "All essential data has been transferred to the fleet. Lieutenant Bennett's team is in position and ready to take over once we leave. The automated systems are programmed to maintain the illusion for another week, which should give the fleet enough time to reach the safety threshold." One of his staff members looked at the empty command center around them. "It feels wrong to leave like this," she said quietly. "Like we're abandoning our home." Richard placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're not abandoning Earth. We're protecting it the only way we can. The Council wanted to take it from us by force. Instead, we're leaving on our terms, but making sure they can't simply move in and claim it once we're gone." As the staff prepared to depart, Richard took one last walk through the command center. For decades, this facility had been the heart of Earth's defense and space operations. Now it stood mostly empty, lights dimmed, only essential systems still running. He paused at the main viewing window that overlooked what had once been a bustling operations floor. Now only a handful of stations remained active, running the automated systems that maintained the planetary deception. "Ready, sir?" Wendy appeared beside him, carrying their final bags of personal items. He nodded, taking one last look around. Let's go. Our ride is waiting. The last transport ship lifted off from Earth as the sun set over North America. On board, Richard and his team joined the other final evacuees. Through the viewport, they watched their home planet grow smaller below them as they ascended toward the waiting horizon. Captain Lewis greeted the last arrivals personally as they boarded. "Welcome aboard," she said, shaking Richard's hand. "You're the final group. Once you're settled, we depart immediately." As the massive engines of the Horizon powered up, Lieutenant Bennett and his team activated the planetary cloaking array from their bunker deep beneath the surface. Advanced technology, developed in secret over the past 5 years, created a sophisticated distortion field around the entire planet. To outside observers using standard detection methods, it would appear as if Earth had somehow vanished from its orbit. The Horizon slipped away silently, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to the watching Council vessels. Behind it, Earth shimmered briefly before seeming to fade from view, humanity's final act of defiance against those who had sought to control their destiny. 5 years after the Exodus, the human fleet approached their destination, a cluster of habitable systems well beyond the Galactic Council's territory. The journey had been long but remarkably smooth thanks to the advanced planning and engineering that went into the fleet design. Each massive ship had functioned as a self-contained world, with hydroponic farms producing food, recycling systems purifying water and air, and energy collectors gathering power from passing stars. Scout ships led by Commander Lavra Peterson had traveled ahead of the main fleet to prepare for their arrival. Her team had surveyed dozens of potentially habitable worlds before identifying the most promising system, a yellow star similar to Earth's sun, with 7 planets orbiting it. The third planet, much like their original home, had breathable air, liquid water, and a compatible gravity. The scout team had already begun establishing the first landing zones and preliminary settlements aboard the Pathfinder, which served as the fleet's command center. Governor Sam Williams prepared to address the gathered leadership. The ship's main conference room was filled with the captains of the other vessels and the civilian representatives from each ship's population. The excitement in the room was palpable. After 5 years of traveling through the void of space, they were about to reach their new home. Sam stood at the front of the room, looking at the faces of those who had helped lead humanity through this incredible journey. Some showed excitement, others anxiety, but all shared the weight of responsibility for the billions of lives in their care. "Today marks the end of our journey and the beginning of our new civilization," Sam began, his voice steady despite the emotion he felt. 5 years ago, we left our home not because we were forced to, but because we chose freedom over subjugation. We rejected a future where humanity would always be seen as lesser, as dangerous, as something to be controlled. He activated the display behind him, showing images transmitted from the scout ships. Beautiful landscapes appeared, mountains with snow-capped peaks, vast forests of alien but Earth-like trees, rolling plains covered in blue-green vegetation, and beaches with white sand along turquoise oceans. Commander Peterson's team has confirmed that the planet is even more suitable than our initial scans suggested. The atmosphere needs no adjustment for human breathing. The local plant life appears non-toxic and potentially compatible with Earth crops. There are no large predators or dangerous microorganisms detected so far. It's as if this world has been waiting for us. The images changed to show the preliminary settlement already established by the scout team, prefabricated structures arranged in an organized pattern, landing pads for shuttlecraft, and the beginnings of agricultural fields. We will begin landing operations tomorrow, starting with essential infrastructure teams. Within 1 month, we expect to have the first permanent city established, capable of housing 1 million people. The rest of the population will transfer down to the surface gradually as we expand our footprint. One of the ship captains raised her hand. "And what of the other planets in the system?" "Our scans showed at least 2 others potentially suitable for terraforming," Sam nodded. "Yes, the 5th and 6th planets have been designated for future development. Once our primary colony is established, we'll begin the terraforming process on those worlds." Unlike in Council space, where terraforming was heavily restricted, we are free to shape these worlds to our needs. The leadership meeting continued for hours as they finalized the details of humanity's resettlement. When it concluded, Sam walked to the observation deck of the Pathfinder to look at their new home through the massive viewport. The planet grew larger as the fleet approached, its blue-green surface reminding him painfully of Earth. He felt a presence beside him and turned to see Maria Perez, the civilian leader who had helped guide them through the journey. "It's beautiful," she said quietly. "Different from Earth, but beautiful in its own way," Sam nodded. "I keep thinking about what we left behind. Not just Earth itself, but our history there. Thousands of years of human civilization reduced to what we could carry with us." Maria placed a hand on his arm. "We carried the most important parts of our people, our knowledge, our cultures. Earth isn't just a place, it's who we are. We'll build something new here, but we won't forget where we came from." The next day, the first colony ships descended to the surface of their new homeworld, which they had named Haven. Massive landing. Craft carried prefabricated building materials, machinery, and thousands of specialists who would establish the foundation of humanity's new civilization. Families watched from viewports on the larger ships still in orbit, pointing excitedly as the first shuttles touched down on alien soil. Among the first to land was Dr. Susan Miller, whose discovery of the Council's plans had set the Exodus in motion 5 years earlier. Now her expertise as a xenobiologist made her essential to understanding their new home. She stepped out of the shuttle onto the surface of Haven, feeling the strange sensation of natural gravity after years in the artificial gravity of the ships. The air smelled different, fresher somehow, with unfamiliar but pleasant scents from the local vegetation. Susan knelt down and touched the soil, taking a sample for analysis. Around her, teams were already unloading equipment and beginning construction of the first permanent human settlement on this world. She looked up at the sky where the massive Exodus ships were visible as bright points of light in the daytime sky. "Dr. Miller, we're ready to set up the main research facility," called one of her assistants. "The agricultural team is asking for your input on the first test plantings." Susan stood up, brushing the alien soil from her hands. "Tell them I'll be right there. And make sure the genetic repository is secured first, those. Earth seeds and embryos are our most precious resource right now." As the days passed, more people transferred down to the surface. Children who had been born on the ships during the journey touched natural ground for the first time. Elderly people who had thought they might die in space felt the warmth of a sun on their faces again. Engineers began adapting their Earth-based designs to use local materials. Scientists cataloged the indigenous life forms, establishing preservation zones to protect the local ecology even as they expanded their settlement. In orbit, the massive Exodus ships were gradually being repurposed. Some would remain as space stations, others would be dismantled for materials to build the new colony. A few were already being prepared for further exploration missions to nearby star systems. 1 month after the initial landing, Governor Williams stood on a small hill overlooking what had rapidly become a bustling city. The settlement, named New Beginning, already housed over 100,000 people, with more arriving each day. Power plants harnessed the energy of their new sun, factories produced essential goods, and the first crops were growing in the experimental fields. Admiral Phillips joined him, looking out over the rapidly growing settlement. "Hard to believe how far we've come in just 5 years," he said. "From facing banishment to building a new world," Sam nodded. "And the Council has no idea where we are. Our observers near Council Space report they're still trying to figure out what happened to Earth. Some believe we destroyed ourselves. Others think we're hiding somewhere in known space. And the truth? Earth still exists, protected by Lieutenant Bennett's team and the cloaking technology. And we're here beyond their reach, building something new." Sam gestured to the city below them. "Look at what we've accomplished already. No Council restrictions, no alien prejudices, no limitations except those we choose for ourselves." In the decades that followed, humanity flourished beyond Council space. The colony on Haven grew into a thriving civilization. Additional settlements were established on nearby planets. Research advanced at a pace that would have alarmed the Council, but always guided by ethical principles developed without external pressure. They built a society that honored their Earth heritage while embracing their new freedom. And far away, in what had once been their home system, Earth waited, neither abandoned nor destroyed, but hidden and protected. A reminder of where they had come from, and a symbol of their determination to choose their own path among the stars. Someday, the galaxy would discover them again. But when that day came, the meeting would be on humanity's terms.